Whiskey Jason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, tasting today Uncle Near's whiskey together with
Victoria Edie Butler, Master Blender at Uncle Near's Premium Whiskey.
Excellent, excellent. It's great to have you here. What a privilege to have you here on the stream to help us relaunch this product over here in Germany. Uncle Near's has a great story. We're going to talk about that, and they make a great product as well. So I'm going to say hello to a couple people here. We have, for example, Bavarian Redneck Whiskey. That's Chris. He says hi. And
Hello,
Ash Whiskey
Chris.
is also there. She says hi as well. And we have Whiskey and Joy is there, and Bourbon fan Frank says hello. And we have a couple of other people up here. We have Stefan from Dramtastic is actually watching and saying hi. Slanchevas, that's Andrea, says hello. We have a Whiskey Wandlaufen, which means running through the forest cross country is there. Klaus is there, and we have a couple other people actually saying hi to everyone here. So that's very, very good
Excellent.
to see
Well,
all you in here.
hello to everyone. I'm thrilled to be here.
Anik says she loves your whiskey. All right.
Excellent.
So that's very, very good. So everyone, we have to do it in English this evening. So Victoria's not that fluent in German, I don't think.
No, not at all. Not at all.
That's all right. Very, very good. So tell us a little bit about Uncle Nearest. What makes Uncle Nearest so special, and how did you become the fifth generation master blender for Uncle Nearest? So go for it.
Nearest Green is my great grandfather, and our whiskey honors his legacy. And so when I retired from the federal government after working about 31 years in law enforcement, our CEO and founder, Fawn Weaver, asked me to join the team. And quite naturally, I said yes. I could not pass up the opportunity to continue my great grandfather's legacy. And so I did. And about 60 days into being on the team, she asked me to blend our first batch of 1884. And thankfully, I did that successfully. And so I blended the next couple of batches, and each one garnered awards and great success with our whiskey fam. And shortly thereafter, I was elevated to master blender, and I have blended every batch since then.
Excellent. Now let's go back to the history very briefly. I actually was watching a couple of videos this week, also with you and with other people talking about Uncle Nearest. And what I had not realized originally was there was a newspaper article, I think it was the New York Times, where Fawn Weaver actually saw then the first mention for her in her life about Uncle Nearest, and she made her husband fly out to Tennessee, and she started researching. And that lady is like a dog with a bone. She didn't let go, and she's done a magnificent job of getting this project off the ground.
Yes.
Let's talk about her for a moment. She's a very, very entrepreneurial powerhouse of a woman, isn't she?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Fawn is the most unique and special person that I have ever known. And I've met some really good people in my day. And Fawn is she's just special. She's
Yep.
extremely intelligent, highly driven. Her love for family is unmatched, extremely generous and kind. So I've just never known anyone like her. I am 15 years her senior, and I have learned so much from this powerhouse in 3.5 years. She's special.
She is special. Very, very good. And now she set up a board. I think it was all female. Is it still all female?
It is
All
still
female
all
Uncle Nearest?
female.
Yes.
We are the only major whiskey brand that has an all female executive team.
Yeah. I just love that fact as well. Very, very, very good.
Well, I
So,
can tell you this, it wasn't intentional.
yeah,
And we didn't even realize it till someone in the press made mention of it, really. And
I did.
so,
I thought it was
um,
intentional. My mistake there. Oh,
yeah, it
good.
wasn't intentional. She just put the best people, the people she deemed to be the best in those spots. And for us, it was all females. And not that our male family members aren't as talented, but for what we were doing then, and it still carries on, it was the females that matched up to what she was looking for. And so it just worked out that way. And we carry that banner with honor now and try to be good stewards of that.
Yes, I love that. Very, very good. So we have about 50 people out there with samples and bottles that are going to watch this and are going to actually try the whiskey with us. Which one should we try first? Should we go to the original?
We should start with the lowest proof, and that's the 1884 small batch.
Right.
So if everyone, those of you who are sampling, let's go ahead and pop the top and pour you a little bit of that 1884. 1884 is the year that Nearest Green last put whiskey in a barrel. And so we honor his retirement with 1884 on our label. What you are drinking today, I think all of you probably have our older whiskey. We have since launched our own era, and now we no longer source our juice. But what you have there is our old juice. It's still absolutely delicious. It's 93 proof, and I think it's heavenly. So let's bring it up to your nose. Open your mouth just slightly, and we're just going to kind of wave that glass back and forth. Don't put your nose all the way in, because 93 proof is a high proof whiskey. But let's just go from side to side, and then we'll take a small sip. We'll give it a good work in our mouth, and then we'll take another sip, okay?
All right. So the first little sip, cheers.
Cheers. We're just awakening your palate. Mm-hmm. So now with the next sip, you can really appreciate the beauty of this whiskey.
All right, good.
So if anyone, I may be stepping out of turn, but if anyone wants to throw anything in the chat about what they're tasting, what they get on the nose, the palate, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. I try not to influence you with what I think and what I get from it. Everyone's different. And so when it comes to whiskey, our palate is unique. And so everyone won't get the same thing. So if anyone wants to share, just type in the chat. And we'll talk about it.
Exactly. You can type it in English. If you don't know the English word, just type in the German word. I'll translate. So I get a lot of honey peaches when I get on here. A little bit of a peach cobbler with a little bit of honey drizzle over it. I really enjoy this whiskey. I even enjoy the other one a little bit more. I can't wait to try the in Germany, the own juice. I actually had the privilege of being there in the end of June at the distillery with the UK brand ambassador, with Matt, and we did a nice little tasting there. I tried the new juice, and everyone really, really, really liked the 1884 there.
I think it is. I think not just the 84, but the 84 and the 56. Our own juice is the best juice that we have put in a bottle to date.
I totally agree. Very, very good. So over here in Europe, we received a container, which means first we have to sell off that whiskey first before we get the next container.
Right.
And that will be for all of Europe. That's for UK, for Belgium, for the Netherlands, for Germany, and other markets we're going to open in the next couple of months and also the year. So let's just talk briefly about the wonderful success story of Uncle Nearest in Germany. In Germany. In America, Germany, we're working on it. It's the fastest growing whiskey brand in the history of American whiskey, I read. Wow.
That is correct. We are the fastest growing American spirit in history. That's for whiskey or bourbon. Yeah. We are the most awarded whiskey or bourbon for 3 years run in 2019, 2020, and 2021. And we're on track to be the most awarded again this year. Yeah. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary yesterday. Our first bottle of Uncle Nearest was sold 5 years ago yesterday. So we're pretty excited about where we have come so far in just a short period of time. And we truly are just getting started. So I'm excited about our future.
Me too. Now, Ashley says she gets honey, nice and sweet. I'm already in love.
Yay!
Aaron
I think
writes,
it's got a sweetness to it as well.
yeah. Aaron wrote down here, the nose is surprisingly sweet and fruity, but there's also almonds and cinnamon to be found.
I totally agree.
Now, this is Constantine over at Whiskey and Joy. He writes, a very nice Tennessee whiskey, classic in my opinion, with full body and refreshing fruity notes. Ooh, well done,
I like
Constantine.
that. Yeah.
So our cross-country runner has our honey and peaches sweet marmalade. So Bavarian whiskey, redneck whiskey says, I have some brown sugar in the nose and some fresh fruits like green apples.
Spot on.
All right, our whiskey hero, that's the translation of the word Heldenia. He says, wow, lovely whiskey, very good job, like it very much.
Thank you.
And Anik says here, nose honeyed rosemary and some lemon peel, would love some cheese and honey with it. Anik is a food pairing expert over here. She actually works in the spirits industry, and we've done food pairing before, and every single time she's trying to create new constellations of pairings with the different whiskeys.
Yeah.
So, all right, cheese and honey.
Yeah.
Good job. Stefan
Good
says
deal.
citrus, vanilla, peanuts, and a bit of banana in the background, and herbal taste.
Gotcha.
All right. Expedition Whiskey writes down fresh and fruity green. Marcos goes for the caramel, honey, and a milk chocolate, translating on the go here. And the tasting is very creamy, chocolate, a little bit of almond cream, very, very nice. And the aftertaste is a little bit longer and really sticks to your palate.
Excellent.
Oh, yes. And cinnamon. Oh, someone forgot the cinnamon here.
I love this. I love the feedback.
The
Everybody
cinnamon
is kind of, it's meshing to be mostly the same. And I love that.
But isn't it great how the different it's like a mosaic a little bit, that just some different pieces come together and they just totally complement each other. So
absolutely.
the cinnamon, the
Absolutely.
sweet oak, fantastic. Very good. And
Absolutely.
Valentine in Hamburg is also there. And my friend here says green apples, lemon with honey, and bubblegum sweetness.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah, his name would be translated smoked salmon is what his YouTube name is.
I love that. I love that.
So now the question that we have over here is, will this whiskey be available in Toronto, Canada? And they have the LCBO stores over in Ontario. I heard you had a deal, didn't you?
Yes, yes. Now, I don't know all of the details about it, but it's my understanding that is done.
Yeah, that should be in the stores very soon. So
absolutely, absolutely. I would have to verify with our chief business officer in regards to when, but yeah, that's a done deal.
That's great. That's great. Oh, I'm sorry, Valentine is not in Hamburg. He's down on business down here in Düsseldorf, the close to where I live. That's very, very good. All right. So what I would like to do now is just take 1 minute and show a nice little video here, and we'll go a little bit to the past, because this brand has I just love I like the whiskey, but I love the story here.
Thank you.
All right. So let's go over here and do this full screen here for us.
What happens when everything we know about something changes?
I tell people all the time, this is the best American story you never heard.
We're out hitting the pavement, talking to restaurants, talking to bars.
I don't think of myself as a whiskey salesperson. I want you to know his name.
Drink by drink, we're bringing this story to light.
When we have to step back through the pages of history.
It's so much more than whiskey. It's so much more than a brand. It's a movement.
When we have to make amends and pay respect.
We're honoring the greatest whiskey maker the world never knew. And it's beautiful.
And give credit where credit is due.
Uncle Nearest is the godfather of Tennessee whiskey, and the world needs to know it.
What happens? We do it. Uncle Nearest, it's more than whiskey.
All right.
Indeed,
more than whiskey.
It is definitely more than whiskey. And that is one of the hashtags that we use, and we live by that, because it truly is. It is more than whiskey. It is history. It is family. It is you. It is me. And we live by that, and we are extremely excited about where we're going.
Yeah. Very good. So Anik says the palate is so smooth, lovely, milk chocolate, nuts, honey, a little bit like a tobamore,
Yeah,
Tobalone, yeah, from Switzerland. Very, very nice. Excellent. The trailer was awesome. When will the movie be out? There's actually a 10-minute longer video as well.
it
You can go
is.
to the website here. I'll share the other little screen very, very briefly, which is your website. So we can actually take a look at that. And you see a lot of the different awards you've won there. But if you go down here, you can actually have the 10-minute video here, which is a fabulous, fabulous thing. But I have you instead. And so you get to tell the story a little bit here of who was Uncle Nearest and what's the connection with him teaching someone how to make whiskey way back when.
Nearest Green is the once enslaved man and my great great grandfather who was making whiskey in Lynchburg, Tennessee. At the time, it was zoned Lincoln County, and he was making whiskey for a preacher there, a man named Dan Call. And Dan Call, true enough, was a preacher, but he was also selling whiskey. And my great great grandfather, Nearest Green, is the man who was making the whiskey for him. When a young white boy came to the farm some years later, he was obviously a curious lad because he came there as a chore boy. But as time went on, he was curious about what was going on in the distance from the house. And that is where Nearest Green was making whiskey. And finally, Dan Call relented and took him to meet Nearest Green. And he introduced Nearest as the best whiskey maker around. And Nearest takes this young white boy under his wing, teaches him everything he knows about distilling whiskey. In addition, he becomes his mentor in life. They build and nurture this unheard of friendship that lasts until their deaths. And when Dan Call was ready to sell his distillery and get out of the whiskey business,
I think he was like a pastor, Dan
he
Call,
was,
wasn't he? His
he was,
wife in the church kind of said
he
either this or
was,
that.
he was a preacher. He sure was. And when he got out of the business, by then, this young white boy had already been had stepped into the role of a salesman, and Nearest Green had taught him everything he knew about the whiskey. And he bought the distillery and named it after himself. And he asked his good friend and mentor to stay on with him. And Nearest did. And he became the first known African-American master distiller under the Jack Daniel brand. He and Jack had this beautiful friendship that lasted until their death. And it was a beautiful thing. Our families still are friends to this day. I think their friendship, their relationship set the stage for relationships in the tiny little town of Lynchburg during the time when others were dealing with race relations and all that ugliness that was going on in our country, and still some are enduring today. That didn't happen in Lynchburg. I grew up there and I know firsthand that it didn't happen. So, and I think the relationship that Jack and Nearest had all those years ago set the stage for that.
I totally agree. And not just Nathan Green worked there, but his son and his grandsons actually worked then for that distillery. I think also even the fourth generation was involved in some other areas, and now you're also involved with whiskey as well.
Absolutely.
Which makes it the fifth
So there has
generation.
never been any Jack Daniel product made without a Green on property.
See,
all these years later, more than 160 plus years later, there's never been any Jack Daniel made without a Green on property. So our lineage runs deep when it comes to making whiskey.
Now, after I was at your distillery, that was a Sunday afternoon, I got in the car, I drove to Lynchburg, did the Jack Daniel's tour, went there. The first thing I saw, I walked in and the left-hand side, a whole wall dedicated to Uncle Nearest Green. And
Yeah.
I was just totally in shock that it wasn't even just a little bit. There was during the tour, our tour guide started talking about this wonderful friendship between these two families, and it's just like, wait, they don't have any investment whatsoever in your company now, do they? And the Uncle Nears, and they still talk about this story. They still have this heritage involved there. Now, it hasn't always been that way. I think they once said it was somehow overlooked for a few decades, let's say that, in the storytelling, but now they totally embrace it and talk about it with a great deal of great much of dearness there. That's great.
Yes, that is correct. That is
Mhm.
correct.
So Anik says here once again a proof that spirits and spirituality belong together.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
very,
agree.
very good. Mr. Schmidt is there. Thank you very much for being there. Valentine's a little bit behind us, but he says his first impression of the small batch very much on the fruity side. Loads of banana, slightly bitter, maybe the tonka beans, lively, some youthfulness. So very, very good. And Stacy says here, love to hear from women in whiskey industry. Thanks, Jason, for putting this together. Thanks, Stacy,
Thank
for
you.
watching. And once again, thank you, and
you.
Victoria, for spending some time with us here over
Absolutely.
and relaunching the brand here in Germany. Now, this is what you actually made. Now, tell us a little bit about you. You come from law enforcement, so you drank maybe some whiskey. I don't know if you ever blended whiskey. How did you learn how to be a master blender? Or is it just a God-given talent that you're so good at it?
I didn't learn. It is a talent. I believe that what I've been able to accomplish is only by my lineage. I had never blended whiskey prior to blending that first batch in 2019. And I just really believe and have learned to embrace that what those skills my father had, my great-great-grandfather had all those years ago, I now also possess in regards to blending whiskey. So it really is. Whiskey is just in my blood.
Yeah, apparently it is. Excellent, excellent. All right, so we have a great first impression here of the 1884. Now, the year was the last year.
Let's drink some 1856.
Let's move over to the 1856.
So 1856 is the year that Nears Green helped perfect the Lincoln County process. That is the process of filtering whiskey through sugar maple charcoal, the process that sets Tennessee whiskey apart from any other spirit. In 2013, the governor of Tennessee signed into law any whiskey designed to be Tennessee whiskey must adhere to all the qualifications for bourbon. Plus, it has to be made in Tennessee, and it has to undergo the Lincoln County process. So for us, and I hope you too, that makes Nears Green the godfather of Tennessee whiskey. Without his perfection of that Lincoln County process, we would be just another Tennessee spirit, or wouldn't even be labeled Tennessee spirit.
Yeah. It might just be a Tennessee bourbon or just a bourbon or something like that. So, but that special Tennessee whiskey labeling is so important. May I digress for one little point here? A few people commented on that before. They comment in German, but let's just do it in English.
Okay.
Talking about the uncle nearest. The question was if we can just kind of is that still something we can use today? Is it contemporary? We had in school the problem with the word Uncle Tom, that it was a little less than honorable to use that term.
It is not when it comes to Uncle Nearest. Nathan was his given name, his slave name. And so all of his family and friends referred to him as Uncle Nearest. And so we opt to do the same because it is a term of endearment, whereas Nathan is not so much.
Exactly. We have to think about that now, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Very, very good. Thank you very much. That was an important factor that I wanted to also mention here.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. So the 1856.
1856. It is.
You look at the color. It's a little bit more. It's darker. It has a little.
Yeah,
bit more
it's been in the barrel much longer. That is an 8 to 14-year-old whiskey. I think that it sips more like a 14, but there is some 8 blended with it. That 1884 that you tasted was a 7-year-old whiskey. So it stays in the barrel longer. Hold your bottle up again and you'll see the difference in the color.
Yes.
So the 56 is the darker amber.
Which I like a little bit.
1884 is much lighter because it's not been in the barrel as long.
Yes.
So if you'll go ahead and raise your glass and let's take a sip of that 1856. Your palate is already awake, so you don't have to awaken your palate again.
Yeah.
So let's just drink some whiskey.
All right. Anik says on the nose she gets brown sugar.
Yes.
Caramelized in butter, which I totally agree here, and put over some pancakes sprinkled with some roasted hazelnuts.
I would agree. That sounds
that girl's got it right, doesn't she?
Sounds wonderful.
I just love the smell of this one. This is really nice. Now,
so I will say on this one, on the finish, I think it is much longer than on the 1884, but it's not pungent. It is very strong and long, but it doesn't have a pungent burn to it. It's delightful.
So we are at 50% here. Stacy says this is one of her favorites. And our bourbon redneck says here, slightly burned, but sweet popcorn with some nuts there. All right, good. This is my favorite. I really enjoy this. So, So sometimes for me, I'm going to go for the apricot with the honey and so on is a tiny little bit too light. I do like the 50%. I do like the wood factor here as well. You got more of the barrel in there.
Yeah.
So look, our Bernie Gator here from Whiskey Travels is here. He says just dropped in. He lived in Boston for quite a few years, so he has American relatives as well. So good to see you there. Yeah, this is something I can really dig my soul into and just have a nice evening here.
Yay, I love it. And for those who like a good cocktail, that 1856 is phenomenal in a old fashioned.
Okay, very good. So we have full-blown banana, nuts, oak, and cinnamon. I think I'm banana blind. I hardly ever get a banana on a Tennessee whiskey. I know a lot of people do, but
yeah, I never ever get banana on our whiskey.
Me neither.
And I'm glad.
Yeah, okay, good. So we have here sweet, fruity again, banana, wood barrel, brown sugar, popcorn, caramel. I like it. We have here a smooth, mellow brown sugar, the popcorn and nuts again. Love it. Valentine over in Dusseldorf writes down here, sweeter, more mature, more on the woody than on the fruity side. Maple syrup, Belgium waffles on the palate. Also some baking spices. I like this one much better. Yeah, Valentine, you and I, we have a very similar taste pattern there. Whiskey and Joy says not only the color is darker, but also the flavors on the tongue. Brown sugar and a lot of roasted peanut butter. Again, a nice strong body. He loves it. All right, so we got a lot of love going on here. So taste, roasted nuts, sweet butter, popcorn, sweet oak. And Stacy gets her brown sugar, vanilla, and a little cocoa. Yeah, very good. Floral, sweet, elegant hints of roasted oak and lots of roasted nuts. So looky there. Look at that. We had a word cloud. That would be very, very nice as well. Yeah. Maybe I need to do that next time. I like this. This is very, very nice.
Absolutely.
So at the distillery, actually in the hand I had, I think it was called Masters. What was it? Masters Blend?
You got the Master Blend, the Master Blend edition. It is only available at the distillery. We launched that expression last Juneteenth, June the 19th of 2021. I think we're on batch 15 or 16 now.
Yeah.
And starting with batch 5, that is our own juice. So all the whiskey this year that has been in the bottle has been Nearest Green juice from start to finish.
Excellent.
It is barrel proof, basically barrel proof 1884. No water in it at all.
Gotcha. All right, very good. Now I was at the distillery and you could see the distillery. It used to be an old horse.
Tennessee walking horse farm.
Exactly, a Tennessee walking horse farm. So for those of you who do not know what Tennessee walking horses are, go to YouTube, watch a video. You'll immediately understand what it is. I can't explain it. I'm sorry. It's weird. It's different. It's very unique to the region. But Yeah, that was Faye Weaver just bought the farm. Now you're not at the original farm where Uncle Nearest actually did the distilling. That's over the
No.
hill and a couple miles away.
Yes, we are in Shelbyville,
Mhm.
and where Uncle Nearest made whiskey is in Lynchburg.
Yep.
Um, but our distillery sits on 323 acres,
Mhm.
just shy of the Shelbyville Municipal Airport. We're
Yep.
directly on Highway 231 North, and it is just a beautiful piece of property. We're really proud of it.
And you had do you have the Guinness Books or record yet or
We
not?
will be. We will be. We are literally building out the longest bar in the world. And in just a few weeks, the Guinness Book of World Records will be here to declare us, certify us as such.
Very, very good.
We also have the country's first non-alcoholic speakeasy on this property. It's called Philo and Frank. It is a very beautiful speakeasy, rich in history. We fill your fill you up with the knowledge of the women's suffrage march and the women's movement to garnish women the right to vote. So it's just full of history here at the distillery.
Yeah. That was very interesting. When I went to on the tour, the very first thing we had to do is we had to go to the speakeasy. It's like, okay, speakeasy, yay. Wait, it's a non-alcoholic speakeasy. I was
It is.
a
It
little
is.
irritated, but it was like it was a history lesson, and then we did everything else. It was
Right.
very, very, very well done. Excellent,
Absolutely.
excellent.
Thank you.
And remembering not just the past of Uncle Nearest and his involvement with making the whiskey, but also everything else that happened there in Tennessee. And that
Yes.
little, was it the yellow or was it the red rose? What color rose was it?
Yellow.
Yellow, exactly. That yellow
Yeah.
rose made all the difference there.
Yes, it
So-
made all the difference in the world. So this distillery, this brand, it is for everyone. While you definitely have to be of drinking age to enjoy our whiskey, the history is for everyone. And we enjoy everyone from all walks of life come through our doors every Thursday through Sunday here at the distillery. And we love greeting them and sharing with them. So it's something here for everybody.
Very good. So we have some tasting notes here. So let's go back up to Welsh Toro. Very good. Welsh, good to see you. He says bananas, overripe banana is a real tell in certain rums. That and overripe pineapple. Very, very good. So we have here. So it's also a dry county. It's not a dry county,
Oh,
is it?
no. Shelbyville is not. Shelbyville is not a dry county.
Yeah.
Moore County, where Lynchburg is, it is dry, but not here.
Now there's a fourth bottle I know you have out there. You're not just a Master's Blend. You have a 1920.
We have an 1820.
Oh, sorry, exactly, 1820. I was actually in Lynchburg and saw all three, and I said, "Oh, I would like to. How much does an 1820 cost?" She says, "Is there a set?" I said, "How much?" She said, "600." I said, "Thank you, but no, thank you."
Where were you? Who had a bottle selling for $600?
Yeah, it was on the little square there. I don't remember which gift shop it was, but she had it up on a shelf, and so she wanted 600.
So when we have it in stock, which is rare anymore because you can't rush the aging process, so we got to wait until it matures to at least 11 years old. But when we sell it here at the distillery, it's a $149.99 plus tax.
Yeah.
But it's been a while, and it will likely be a while longer before we have any, just for that reason, because it's just not ready yet. Yeah. But we introduced our rye this weekend, so it won't be long before our rye will be hitting the shelves.
Yeah, very good. So that was the next question. Will there be a rye from Uncle Nearest?
Absolutely.
All right, very, very good. So that's very nice. Ash says, I love the finish. No bitterness whatsoever, just spice and some sweetness. Warmth, love it. Very, very good. Marco says it's a little bit of caramelized marshmallows. There's a dark chocolate, very powerful, a little bit more wild than the 1884, but still good. Our whiskey hero says here, thank you, Jason, for the tasting. Thank you, Victoria, for the fantastic whiskey. It's such a great experience. And Welsh Toro over here from Europe says, I can't get my head around that as a Brit, a dry county. that kind of thing would reduce the Brits to a revolution.
Yep, Lynchburg is still, Moore County is still dry, even though Jack Daniel has been made there, for years, but
Exactly.
it is a dry county.
Very, very good. Now, the distillery experience is great, and you actually got to see the distillery. You have your own column still. I was told that you're actually going to expand the capacity. You're basically going to more than double it. The next column still is going to be also added there. But if I understand it correctly, you still would not be able to produce enough juice for all the bottles you're doing. So you're still going to be contract distilling even after you have everything up and running with the expansion, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll be using our own juice. We won't be sourcing our juice. With our own mash bill, non-GMO corns bought from local farmers within 60-mile radius of our distillery. But we will still be using our distilling partners to bottle.
Very, very good. And both of these whiskeys are sourced because they're one of the first batches. If you're in Tennessee, you can buy the own juice then there. This stuff was not made at Jack Daniel's. This was not made at Dickel, right? So it was made someplace else. We're not going to talk about where because I don't know either. But many people say, oh, it's distilleries in Tennessee besides just those two.
Exactly.
So more than we
so
actually know.
So now we don't have that question because it is near screen whiskey. So I'm grateful for that.
That is very, very, very good.
Yeah.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. So if you have any questions in the chat, please write them down now while we still have Victoria here. So we've talked a little bit about the history, know how this happened. We know a little bit about the distillery and the one of the gift shop is actually just breathtaking what you've done there. I love the wall. You are the most awarded whiskey in the year 2019, 2020, and 2021. Yes. And in 2022, if you're not, I'm going to be very surprised because I think you have some very, very, very good stuff there. You have the rye coming out soon. You have these two bottles. What else can we expect in the future? Anything else going to hit the market in other parts of the world, or are we just going to stick with these basically two brands in the rye?
We will continue to add to our line. We will soon be adding a single barrel.
Okay.
Along with that rye, and so we will continue to add extensions to our line each year. Yeah. So these two will definitely, I hope both of them will hit the market, will be on the shelf this year. But the rye definitely will be on the shelf very soon.
Yeah, very, very good. So on a barrel strength, a single barrel will probably be barrel strength by
the rye, yes, it's unfiltered and uncut.
Okay, very, very good. And are there any other chances of any barrel strength except for the 1920 that we can hardly ever get outside of the distillery?
Well, the Master Blend Edition is barrel strength.
You said that it's actually the barrel strength of the 1884.
But right now, it's still only available at the distillery. I don't know if we'll be sending that out into the market maybe in the next year or so. But right now, it's only available at the distillery.
Okay. Now, Welsh Toro, he came a little bit later. Could you briefly, once again, give us a little bit of your background? How did you get in the whiskey?
So no, I was not in law enforcement. I wasn't in whiskey. I was in law enforcement for the majority of my adult life for almost 31 years. I've only been in the industry since March of 2019 and blending since May of 2019.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And we both attributed a little bit to your genes that you are so good at.
Absolutely. I can't explain it any other way. To have been named and won Master Blender of the Year 4 times over, that is unheard of. And it's certainly unheard of.
I knew 3. Congratulations. The last 4 years you've won. Yeah. Hey, well done. Well done. 4
from 3 different agencies.
Right.
Whiskey Magazine, the Icons of Whiskey, named me Master Blender of the Year back to back. And that's the first time that has ever been done for 2021 and this year for 2022.
All right, very good. Now, over here in Germany, we have something called a Sharing Angels. It's actually a group of only women that are actually involved, and they have a network set up. Could you briefly mention maybe any type of network you're involved in where there's a type of women's spirits club?
Well, there's Bourbon Women
Exactly.
in Tennessee and all over the country, and then Women of the Vine as well. Those are intentional for women. There are some men that you can join, but it was created with women in mind and by women for women. So we have at least two that I am active with.
Mhm. Excellent. Now, one thing I have not seen yet are the so-called finishing barrels. Now, that's one of the things that's happening at the moment with bourbon and American whiskey in particular, is that we actually try to finish a lot of things, either double oak or even maybe a port, a cognac, a sherry, and so on. Are there any plans, or are there any bottles out there that I have not yet seen?
Not from Uncle Nearest. There are no bottles out there. And far as plans, there's nothing actively planned in that vein right now.
All right, thank you very much. And when I walked through the warehouse, I did not see any other barrels. It was just the you get your barrels from Kelvin, or where did you get your barrels
We
from?
get our barrels out of Kentucky.
Out of Kentucky. Very good. Yes,
Yes.
and they're charter 3 or 4. What are they
Four.
basically?
Four.
Exactly. All right. Very, very good. So there's another question here. Bavarian Redneck Whiskey asked the question, okay, outside of Uncle Nearest, what is your favorite whiskey otherwise?
I don't drink any other whiskey.
Very good.
Before Uncle Nearest launched, I drank E.F. Taylor and I drank Maker's Mark 46.
Yes, I love
But
Maker's Mark 46 as well.
yeah, but I do not drink anything but Uncle Nearest now.
Okay, look, Welsh says I'm impressive. Congratulations. Very interested in the brand. Now, let's go back briefly to this expansion. You got into all 50 states in the United States. You're in various countries around the world.
12.
Exactly. It's amazing. How in all the world did you manage to do that? I know other brands that are 20 years old and still not in all 50 states, let alone around the world.
Really hard work. Again, Fawn Weaver is brilliant. And then we have our chief business officer. Her name is Catherine Jerkins. She's just one hell of a businesswoman. And so the two of those masterminds together, along with being diligent and working long hours and being totally dedicated, that's what made it happen. I know that it probably, for some, it may look easy because we've done so much in such a short period of time. And we love what we're doing. So it looks easy, but we work really hard. And those ladies in the very beginning worked extremely hard. And so we just haven't let up. We have barely scratched the surface of what we're going to do. And to have made that jump into all 50 states and 12 countries in such a short period of time, that just energizes us to do more.
Yeah, very, very, very good. Now, Whiskey and Joy says here the 1884 seems to be the better whiskey for hot days like right now. We just mentioned we're in the 90s over here, and most of us don't have air conditioning in our homes, but the 1856 is definitely the fuller, deeper, broader whiskey. Also, here's the question. I like them both in their own way. They have a wonderful Tennessee whiskey character there. So I have to get rid of something real quick. So very, very good. We got a little bit of spam going on there. So sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
So, no, exactly. All right. Very, very nice. So
yeah, thank you so much. It's just I really appreciate the opportunity to have joined you this afternoon. Always a joy to share the story and to raise a glass of whiskey. I hope all of you on this platform today, I hope you get an opportunity to come to Shelbyville, Tennessee, to see our beautiful distillery. If not, I hope that I have the opportunity to meet you face to face one day real soon real soon in the very near future.
That'd be great. So come on over to Europe and maybe we can meet
Yeah,
you at a whiskey festival, a whiskey fair
I would
someplace.
love
That would be
that.
great, Victoria. We'd
I
love
would
to
love
have you here.
that.
Yes.
I would
Very,
love
very
that.
good. So the European brand ambassador, Matt, will be at the Bottle Market in Bremen with me. And he will actually be there with the brand. And if you want to try this, contact me just at whiskeyjason at gmail.com. I can send you samples, and many different stores have this also already on their shelves. One of our premium partners we work with over here is called deinwhisky.de. Whiskey Zone, Zone.de will also be stocking this very soon. They just placed their first order, and there are a few other shops that have this as well. We can hook you up with the bottles. We can make sure you get little samples at that, or visit me at a whiskey fair. I'll be at Greiz in August, and in Hamburg by Just Whiskey at the end of August as well. Bavarian Redneck just says, thank you very much, Victoria, for your time. Thank you very much for the samples. It's 2 great whiskeys. Thank you very much there. It was a great honor to have you here with us. And Aaron says, thank you very much for the tasting. I enjoyed both of the whiskeys a lot. And there was one other little nice comment here that I wanted to show. So it was actually here. Timothy says here, Jason and Victoria, thank you both for this wonderful experience. Can't wait to see what the future holds. Hashtag Texan in Germany. Isn't that kind of
Yeah,
cool?
that's
Very, very
cool.
good. All right. Well, thank you very much for being there. And Whiskey
Oh,
Jason
thank
here.
you.
Anything you want to mention at the end that I did not ask?
No, I don't think so. I think you got it all. We talked about my background, the history of this beautiful brand that I have the honor to represent on a daily basis, and we talked about the brilliant Fawn Weaver, who is the head of this awesome brand, and we talked about the distillery. So I think you have covered it all. If by chance anyone has questions after we conclude today, ask Jason, shoot him a message, and he'll get it to me, and I'll get you the answer. But again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for asking me to join you. I'm extremely honored.
And thank you very much for spending the time here to relaunch the brand over in Germany. And I think we can just use the words here. Thank you, Victoria, for the great whiskeys and your time. All the best. Whiskey Jason here. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.